Thanks everyone for joining us at the Project Censored radio show on Pacifica Radio. I'm your co-host, Eleanor Goldfield. And we're very glad right now to be joined by Dr. Abdalhadi Alijila, who's a Palestinian-Swedish social and political scientist and science advocate. He is the author of Trust in Divided Societies, State, Institutions, and Governance in Lebanon, Syria, and Palestine, as well as the forthcoming book, which we're here to talk about today, Fearful in Gaza. His main research interests are divided societies, social cohesion, rebel governance, social capital, Middle East studies, and comparative politics. Dr. Alijila, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I don't know if pleasure is the right word. I mean, it's a pleasure to meet you. I wish that we were not meeting under these circumstances, but I wanted to ask you because you have quite an impressive academic career, and you've typically focused on academic writings up until now. Why do something that's not just personal, as I would argue that all writing is personal, although academic writing does often make me wonder if people are aware of their personhood. But why go to something that's not just personal, but autobiographical?
Well, I think academics in general, I mean, this has to do not with me. It's not me who changed. I think it's academia that changed. And that's my point of view here. That's in the old times, and when academia started to take up and to be a job, it was the academics were the advocators in the society, that make change makers in the society. They were the ones who stood up for freedom, for justice, from all fields. So you could see a physician, chemist, or something like this standing for justice. They are public figures. But then when it became a job, like to earn money, academia lost its meaning. And that's why I think the PhD title, Doctor of Philosophy, I think it's became just a normal thing, a job title, instead of being a part of the change makers of the society. I usually argue that we need to bring back the philosophy to the doctorate because we don't have any more philosophy in the doctorate. Yeah. So my idea here is just one of the initiatives that I have been thinking about for a long time, that we don't have information, or let's say writings about the Palestinians in Gaza Strip, what they have been subjected to, and the oral history of Gaza, the people of Gaza, people-centered approach in writings. I have been writing academically about the Gaza, the Palestine, the Middle East, and elsewhere on conflict and peace. But the issue of Gaza is close to my heart. And I have written this book even before 7th of October and the genocide in Gaza. I finished it actually in the beginning of 2023, but I kept it under the carpet because I wasn't sure that it's something that we need to publish.
Yeah, well, it certainly feels necessary, and I wanted to dig in a little bit to the way that it's written, because it's a very fascinating way of shifting narration in the perspectives that you use that are autobiographical, but also from the perspective of a mother and a son. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that and how that kind of speaks to the identity. I'd say that it is specific to you, but I felt reading that, even though I'm not Palestinian at all, I felt this kind of intense, feeling about the connection that one has to one's mother. So could you talk about that choice and that kind of through line in the book?
I think these words are my mother words, most of them, actually. It's not my own words. So this is how the description, how she would tell me or tell my brothers or sisters. Of course, mothers would not speak too much, but one could feel as well. And this approach, I choose it because I need to give my mother the voice. Um, my mother sacrificed a lot in her life for us as children. I am number 9 in 11, and she brought us up, all of us. She was side by side by my father. She was the one pushing for education in the family, and that's the minimum I can give her, is that her voice should be heard. We don't hear a lot voices from Gaza, women from Gaza, I mean. And I think this approach, I choose it because I cannot have the honor of voicing my or writing something alone while the whole story is centered around her. So I gave her the voice.
Yeah, and there's kind of this, I mean, there's a push-pull in a lot of ways throughout the book, but there's this very visceral push-pull that I felt in reading it about staying and leaving a home that is so clearly ingrained in who you are, yet shattered through this painful mosaic because of the violent occupation. You write about the excitement of being able to leave finally after these remarkable and disgusting, I mean, honestly, terroristic attacks against you, to go to Italy, but it's bittersweet. Um, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about this paradoxical hold and push that Gaza has.
There is the relationship between Gazans and Gaza is love-hate relationship. And it's always intensify every time Israel attack Gaza. So the whole item, there is a paradoxical, as this is reflected in this paradoxical narrative and paradoxical relationship. So it's an authentic writing. It's not somehow I just want to write it, but just for writing. So no, but it's really between every Gazan and Gaza. And this has to do with the pride of being Gazan, because we feel the pride of that we are the last part of Palestine that one can say that has resistance in all meanings. We usually say that we Gazans are the production of all warriors, the best of the best warriors in history that passed through that region in the Levantine, in Western Asia, and they settled down there in Gaza. So this kind of relationship, paradoxical, it's mixed with the pride. It mixed as well with the idea of having a home, the meaning of a home. And once we are in this home, we feel like we need to get out and breath. We need to get out and travel. It's like somebody, he is happy at home, but he need to go for the nature and come back and sleep in at home. And this is simplistic, but it's the reality that we needed to go out to be free from the prison. We feel in the prison, and once we feel in the prison in Gaza Strip, and we felt this, and everybody in Gaza felt this. Imagine like 99% of Gazans have never left Gaza. And some of the Gazans nowadays have only left their own city or village during the displacement, forced displacement, and ethnic cleansing. So this paradoxical comes like once we leave, we cannot go back. And that's make us even stronger, have a stronger feeling towards Gaza and towards Palestine advocacy, and because we keep the relationship with the Gaza. We have our families. We are not like a normal people. We travel, and when we decide to go back, we can go for a visit. No, once we leave, we don't know when we are coming back, and if we are coming back or not.
Yeah, and in that way, it seems to me like the book is also a kind of anchor, because it's a way to affirm that, because I know that especially in the US, I mean, my family, I'm the child of immigrants, and my father's family tried very hard to assimilate. You know, they stopped speaking Russian in the house because they didn't want to take the old place to the new place, and they felt very strongly about. So my father never grew up speaking Russian, but this is it feels like this is a way to say that the diaspora is Palestinian, even though we cannot get home. And as you said, you don't know if you can go back home. So in that sense, the book felt like a way of affirming that, like, you might be able, we might be able to leave, and we might not be able to come back right now, but we are still Palestinian, and we will always be Palestinian.
Yes, definitely. I mean, especially in this situation, I mean, the global politics, the populism in Europe and elsewhere, and the genocide on Gaza, the genocide on Gaza, I think it's the most horrific genocide in history, because it's a live stream genocide and everybody knew about it, and with the support of international community. So it's this kind of book or narrative, even before the genocide, it made a clear signal that the mere idea of being Gazan is to have Palestinian identity, or to be affiliate, or to be attached to the land, to the idea of Gaza, because Gaza is the only place that has the or everything around Gaza goes around the resistance, Palestine, whole of Palestine, aside like from who is the de facto ruler of Gaza. But also at the same time, it strengthens our own identity, because uh, if you don't have, or you don't experience the identity firsthand, like going in Gaza or having a country and having your own identity, then the Palestinian and Gazan identity, because it's difficult to have it normal life normally, you will have to have an imaginable identity, to create an imaginable identity, and to strengthen this kind of identity, and to practice this kind of identity. And once we create this kind of imaginable identity, not virtual, I don't mean virtual, but it's an imaginable identity by the whole meaning, beside the idea of Palestinian identity that we are struggling with in for a long time. And because the Gazan identity is I would say it can be reflected in our flesh and blood. So once you go as a Gazan to travel around in the region, you would be treated as Gazan, not as a Swedish, for example, if I am a Swedish citizen. And if you want to go to Palestine in the West Bank or Israel nowadays, you are not allowed, even though you are a European citizen, because it has to do with your DNA, with your flesh. And that's why the idea of imaginable identity as a reflective of the real identity, it becomes strong, and we become creative in strengthening this identity and making it more visible.
Well, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the creative, because the book is so clearly about not just like the lived experiences, but also these beautiful moments, the life, and yet, like, you know, like sharp fence posts interrupting a landscape, there's this constant reminder of the occupation. So, you know, that you'll be talking about having a coffee or meeting with somebody, and then all of a sudden, you know, you got to wait at a checkpoint to make it to a meeting. The crossing is closed, so you can't get out. How are you going to post something when there aren't post codes in Gaza, you know? But there's also laughter and this way of keeping the occupation out of your minds by making fun of them. You know, like, they can fence in our land, our bodies even, but they can't get into our minds. And this is also representative then of Gaza. Like, they can't take it, and they can't take our minds as Gazans, which is really the most important part of the occupation, is to make the occupied think that they're done, that they can't resist anymore. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that, like these small acts that seem, you know, like just making fun of somebody while offering some cucumbers to people. Like, how is this these small acts is a way to survive in otherwise totally unacceptable conditions?
Well, that's I think, because that's something that we in the West, I think, in the eyes of many, when they look at the TV or Google Gaza, they would see destruction, blood, killing. But Gazans are normal people. I mean, this what we your question reflect exactly the long process of dehumanization of Palestinians that Israel has been doing, of course, with the help of Western media. So the Gazan in general, and almost like any humans in any country, they laugh, they marry, they have fun, they do sport, they joke, they serve bread, they eat. The Gazan are actually the most generous people on earth, in my experience and the experience of people who have been there. So 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 the whole thing is of this book also has to do with giving a new scenes from Gaza. That's Gaza is not mere flesh that's being killed, not mere people who are resisting occupation and apartheid and colonialism. They also have families, they laugh, they are humans. And it's sad because we don't need it's sad because we shouldn't need such book to humanize the Palestinians in Gaza to start with. So that's where and this is a message or initiative, and I think it's a call for anybody who read this book to admit and to work that and to see the Palestinians as humans, as neighbors, as somebody in the streets, as somebody eating beside them in a restaurant, as normal people. We are not heroes, but at the same time, we are not subhumans.
Right. And I actually wanted to get into that because there's this habit, I would say, that I see quite a lot where, you know, the image of doctors working or, you know, walking towards tanks or something. And then it's like, oh, they're superheroes. And that's dehumanizing in a different way because it means that you don't have to worry about it because, of course, they're going to be fine. They're superhuman, right? And it is a way to assuage our own guilt of witnessing this and not doing anything about it. And it's also to assuage the fear because if we accept that there is no difference between us, then that means that this could happen to us too. And it's just an accident of birth. It's just an accident of geography that it's not. And it also means that we are then implicated by watching this happen to humans, and we have to do something. And unless we suggest that, oh, you're superhuman, so we don't need to worry about it. You're going to figure this out because you're heroes or whatever. It is taking this kind of attempt to humanize and pushing it too far to make it seem like Palestinians can withstand anything, which is kind of what happened, you know, in the United States, so-called United States, to Black folks during slavery. Oh, well, they're so strong they can withstand anything, so it doesn't really hurt them when we whip them. That kind of narrative is very, very at play here as well.
Well, I mean, we have been witnessing this in not only in the West, I think it's even in Arab countries and even in other parts of Palestine. And to make a Palestinians as icons, symbols, as heroes, as people who not only withstand and resist, but also as people that the rest of the world cannot do anything for them because they are the strongest. They have the strongest faith. They are the one who resisting, and this is to take away as you said, the moral responsibility after them because we cannot do anything. They are heroes. We can just pray for them, but also this reflect how weak make social media made people. It's as well that they just keep writing and not even advocating that we can't do anything. They are heroes. Like trying to say like to elevate the morals of the Palestinians in Gaza, but this actually hurt them more and more. So as I said, the Palestinians in Gaza are not heroes. They are humans, but they are not superhumans as well. So that's the main idea behind the book, to also send a message that's like it's a story of like every family. You can find this story in every family in the world.
Yeah, and I wanted to get into because you mentioned that you finished the book in early 2023, and I was kind of wondering reading it because at points it almost felt like I was a voyeur, like I was seeing something that maybe I shouldn't, that it would like that I was spying on somebody because it feels very not just personal but also like culturally personal, right? You know, like so there are some indigenous tribes here in the US that say like don't take pictures of us while we're doing prayer because it's not appropriate. You know, it's sacred. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about when you were writing this book, who were you writing it for?
For myself. I was actually writing for myself, not for anybody else. And I started writing it in 2019. So it took many years, and I used to spend my evenings sometimes writing it, like every day, a bit of 1 page, 2 pages, and stories. I wanted to write something about the oral history, about me, about myself, as a way to, uh, as a therapeutic way.
And did you start writing it in Arabic?
No, it has always been in English.
Did you find that because I don't speak Arabic, unfortunately, but having heard from friends how how rich of a language it is, uh, and just speaking to other languages myself, I oftentimes feel, ah, there's no English word for this. Did it feel constrictive to write it in English?
No, because it's because my background as education in Gaza, it's a very very personal. Because I didn't like Arabic when I was in school, because I didn't like the teachers, Arabic teachers. And then at the university, I studied engineering. So I didn't read even philosophy or stories or novels or whatever. Reading in Gaza, it wasn't somehow, it was a luxury. It's not for me. It wasn't for me. But I have always been interested in politics and in cultures and stuff and so on. So when I shifted my career and my education to culture and social science and humanities and so on, the whole box that and the stories and novels and even education was in different languages, in Italian, German, English. So my brain started to think from this aspect, from different perspective, not in Arabic, in different languages. So that's why I didn't find it very difficult to write in English. And at that point, my brain was more thinking in these languages. Until today, I don't think in Arabic. Even though now I read Arabic, I write in Arabic very well, but still my brain, when I write, I do write in while thinking in Swedish or in English or German or Italian.
Hmm, interesting. Well, and I wanted to ask as well, th going back to the content of the book, there's a lot of contradictions, and I know we mentioned the push to stay, the push to go, but in particular, there's one section that's called freedom and unfreedom. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that as well, especially as it pertains to what we've talked about with Gaza in particular, this being like the last bastion of occupied Palestine that has not fallen to the occupiers.
Yeah, I mean, freedom and freedom, it's about because it's the idea. What is the freedom? It's about the definition. What is the freedom? The freedom is to do everything you want, of course, with the limits, like uh, in a fair way, in a just way. But once you leave Gaza, first, when you are in Gaza, you are not free. once you are outside Gaza, you are also not free. So that's this kind of thing when one when one think about these kind of things, you need to reflect on the future and the past. So Gazans always don't think of the future alone. They think of the past, the present, and the future together. You cannot. Gazans are different in many ways because their future is linked to their present, linked to their past. And it's all present in this moment. So what I mean here when we talk about the freedom and the freedom is once you leave Gaza, you have no freedom to go back whenever you want. You have no freedom to travel freely around the world. Your visas tell you need visa. You are not free to talk and criticize parts in the world, like some political parties, some regimes, some states. You are not allowed, you are not free to advocate for Palestine or Palestinian rights in many continents, in many contexts as well. So that's why I call it freedom and freedom. So once you think about like, if I leave, I will be free, but at the same time, I am not free.
Well, and it's interesting too, because recently I spoke on the show with Dr. Ramzi Baroud, who said that you know, in more of obviously a philosophical sense, but that the freedom of Gazans scares people because it is so like the Gazans have to live in this extreme affirmation of freedom and knowing that the you know the white flag will never be raised in Gaza and that this is you know and that scares people because it is this it's a challenge again, like going back to the humanity thing. If it's a challenge to say like, well, we are human, we are simply human, and here we are, and we are not raising the white flag, and we are living in a way that is so explicitly free in a system that is so explicitly unfree. And it's a challenge to the people who are, you know, like myself, like quite comfortable and, you know, in the United States or in Sweden or what have you. It is a challenge and it makes people uncomfortable. And this really speaks to the idea of not being able to speak about it, you know, because it makes people, quote unquote, uncomfortable, right? And
Yeah.
God forbid we make people uncomfortable. So I wanted to ask when is this book coming out and how can people best get it?
It's going to be out by the end of November, I guess. It depends on, you know, there are always delays. So by the first week of December will be available everywhere. Its name is Fearful in Gaza. And it's by the publisher in New York, Casa Carlini. And it's very interesting because many publishers I approached, they were like, "Oh, this is a very sensitive topic. We cannot maybe now. We have so many projects." So, and that's for before during the genocide and even before the genocide, because we also still Gazans are not allowed by publishers in the West to publish, to speak, because and also by others from the region and even some Palestinians, the Gazans, for many, should not speak. So that's would be difficult, but this is I hope it's changing nowadays.
Well, yeah, and I mean it's good to see, especially in this current. I mean, on Project Censored, we oftentimes talk about the lack of free speech and free press in the United States, and so it's good to see that there's an American publisher that's willing to not only take this on, but not, you know, edit it so that it's not offensive to anyone, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So Dr. Alijila, thank you so much for taking the time to talk
Thank
through a
you.
little bit about this with us. And folks, please do check out Fearful in Gaza whenever you can towards the end of November, early December 2025.
Thank you very much, Eleanor.